I-O, so off to work I go. Hello and welcome to Conversation Corner, where your host Kunal dissects interesting ideas. And the most interesting idea that I want to talk to you about today is why do people face so much anxiety at work, or why is work such a burden for most people? Now there was research done as to how many people really don't enjoy the job that they're doing, and surveys showed that it was about more than 60% of people who didn't like the work they do. I think I'm just being conservative with these estimates. It may range to up to 80%, I suppose. And it's very interesting that you should hate the work that you do or you should not like the work that you do, because most of your life is going to be spent working, right? You have 24 hours in a day, of which you have to sleep at least 8 hours. So that leaves you with maybe 16 hours, and in those 16 hours, you work at least 8 hours. So it's safe to say you're at least working a third of your lifetime, at least during the weekdays. And given that you work for such a large part of your life, right from your youth till your middle age, till the time you're almost retired, you're always working. So it is a good idea to not hate your work so much, because in some sense, to hate your work is to hate your life, since work comprises such a large percentage of your life. So I want to explore the reason today why most people don't enjoy what they do. And for that, I have drawn two diagrams. And with the help of these diagrams, I'll help you understand the difference between work that you do not like, work that is soul sucking, versus work that energizes you, work that makes you feel really happy, and work that you can do without any stress or anxiety. Now, before I go ahead and talk about this, I would like to preface this by saying that this is a concept that has been talked about in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I'm no Sanskrit scholar, but this is the interpretation I got from the verse that says that you only have the right to take action, but you do not have the right to the fruits of the action. So, what kind of work would you do where you don't expect the fruits of the action? Is something I would like to illustrate here. Now, let's take a look at the diagram and let me give you an explanation. Now, this is the diagram that I have drawn for the difference between work that is really fulfilling and work that really sucks your soul. So, let's start with the first type of work, which is the work for most people, right? Most people are working for a particular result. You and I, let's say, when we choose our profession, we choose it on the basis of the remuneration. At least in India, a lot of people are quite interested in what the salary or the compensation might be for a particular job they choose. If it's not necessarily salary that's the driving factor, sometimes it is status, which is why some Indians want to get into IIT, which is why they want to get into civil services. So money is not the only factor, sometimes it can be status. But whatever is the reason, we want to go and select that profession or that career is for a result we desire in the future. Now, here is where all the problem starts. Every time you're living life, you're living it in the present. They say that the tree that we have here today came from the seeds that was planted in the past. So the same seeds that you sow today will manifest as trees in the future if you take care of them. Now, what is happening with the or what is the mistake that is taking place when you select work that you don't like is you start off at a point where you're not in the present moment, right? So when you've decided to do work, you've decided to do work with the expectation of a result for something that cannot take place right now. Now, the gap between what you have and the gap between what you want is desire, and the time it takes to fill this desire is the time that you're filled with either excitement or you're filled with anxiety, right? Excitement or anxiety. lies in between your present state and your future state being, of course, the result you desire. Now, what happens in the ordinary course of ordinary work is the work you undertake is always done with a result. And as a consequence of undertaking work with the expectation of a particular result, you're not really concerned with what you're doing, or you're not really concerned with enjoying what you're doing, if I were to be more blunt and more specific. Which is why, even though you do reach your goal quite often, you feel that something is missing. And there's a good reason that something is missing. Whenever you're not happy with who you are, and whenever you're not happy with where you are in life, your mind sets a target for something that's there in the future. Let's say you earn 10,000 rupees a month today. So your mind will say, hey, it would be great to earn 20,000 rupees a month. When you reach 20,000 rupees a month, your mind might say, hey, it's great to earn 50,000 rupees a month. So the goalpost keeps going further and further and further away from where you actually are. And here's the problem with doing work with expectation of a result in the future: you will not be happy in your present moment. And as they say, the future that we have today came from the past that happened yesterday. So if you're not happy in the present moment and you keep repeating this day in and day out, every day that passes makes you more unhappy because of not having what you want and because of not being where you are. Now, you may think that as you get closer and closer to the goal that you set, that once you reach the goal, you're going to be really happy. It's a very good assumption, but it's not true, because in science there's a concept called hedonic adaptation, which is your body adjusting to whatever situation you are in. So let's say you were really poor at some point in time, and now after 2 or 3 years you're reasonably well off. Let's say you're earning well, you're eating well, and things are going fine. Even though you made such a large amount of progress in that period of time, now that you've got it, you won't value it so much because of the concept of hedonic adaptation, as I've told you. So this is now the new normal. What was considered an aspiration or dream at some point in time is now the new normal. And this same process takes place time and time and time again. This is the problem with choosing work with the intention of getting a certain result. Now, in the course of daily life, it's understandable that most of us do have to make a living. So, we have to choose at least something that helps us sustain a living without having to ask anyone else for help. The question here is, how much time are you going to dedicate to that kind of job, and how much time are you going to spend out of that job, let's say on the weekends, to doing work in which you don't bother about the results. That is something you should think about. If you are working a job and you're not in a position to leave it immediately, what you should think about is, what should I do on the weekends instead of just consuming some entertainment on Netflix or YouTube? What should I do on the weekend that I really enjoy doing, whether or not I get a great result at it, and pursue that with great passion, because doing that kind of work is going to make you feel more energized. In the course of regular work or work that we choose with an expectation of a result, we often notice that once the work is done for the day, we just want to escape. Let's say we may want to have a drink, we may want to watch a movie, we may want to watch a new video. We just want to shut our laptops as hard as we can and be done. However, the exception with work that you really like is different, and this is what I'm going to illustrate in the second point. Now, the second point illustrates work that you really love. Now, when you choose work that you really love, you don't move towards a destination. When you choose work that you really love, you already start in the destination. And starting in the destination means that you've not set any goals or any target, or you don't have any expectation. Just doing the work in and of itself is so much of it gives you so much pleasure that you don't care about the outcome. Let's say you really love singing, and this is not singing in the sense of a competition that you have to win on Indian Idol. Let's just say you love singing, so you practice singing every day, you try and get better, you do your riyaz. Now, whether you have people who view you on YouTube or not, whether you make money singing or not, is immaterial. This is work that you really love doing, right? So every day you find yourself singing, you find yourself doing something that you really enjoy, and you find yourself doing work from which you don't expect anything. This is the kind of work that really energizes you. This is the kind of work that renews you and makes you feel alive. The challenge of life now is to find work where you can find a balance of both. That kind of work where you can do what you really love and not expect anything, and that which gives you a sustenance. This is the challenge of life, and in between that, you have to decide what kind of a lifestyle do you want, what your monthly expenses are going to be, and what all are you going to spend on. This is an exercise that requires you to be really intellectually honest and decide what expense is a luxury and what expense is a need. And the way you get to doing work you really, really love is by reducing your luxuries. It's by reducing the amount you spend on things you really don't need. Now, what really is need is very subjective and it can't be defined for you, which is why I request you to be intellectually honest when doing this exercise, okay? So, if your goal is to lead a happy life, the fastest way to leading a happy life is choosing work you really enjoy. And the way you get to do work you really enjoy is by cutting out on unnecessary expenses with respect to your lifestyle right now, so you possibly can save up enough up to the point where the work you really enjoy doing already starts giving you some income, and sooner or later when this income matches your regular income, that's when you'll be able to leave your job. This is a lot of information to take in, I understand, but I have given you steps that you can take. Number one, cut out entertainment from your weekends and make sure you're just doing work you enjoy so that you grow in skill and you grow in terms of fulfillment. Number two, make sure you've cut down on unnecessary lifestyle expenses, expenses that do not need to be there. Number three, save enough, and when time comes, when you have enough saved in the bank, you can think about leaving the regular job that you have and pursuing this kind of work that brings you fulfillment. Let me know whether this video made any sense to you, and if it did, thank you so much for taking your time out. I'll see you in the next video.